The food stamp situation is getting worse for people who don't own Bitcoin. And this is a serious problem that is going to affect millions of American families. And of course, I believe even maybe have a trickle down effect to people who live in other countries for Americans who end up sending money overseas via remittances. And this is a huge problem that can be solved by the power of simply saving in Bitcoin instead of saving in government currencies. Hi guys, my name is Tarek. Welcome to my channel, and I'm here to bridge the gap between real world issues and the power of Bitcoin. So I noticed that there are a lot of videos on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook complaining about the potential cuts to the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, aka SNAP, under the new Donald Trump administration. And that's simply because, with the whole Doge department that's kind of simply being led by Elon Musk, Trump's administration wants to simply make cuts across the board in the government, and that includes cuts to the SNAP program. But the problem with this is that in the United States, about 1 in 8 Americans face food insecurity on a daily basis, and over 42 million people rely on the SNAP benefit program to help provide food for themselves and their families. Okay, so obviously a lot of people are dependent on that. 42 million people is a large number, and of course, there's a lot of people out there that are in certain specific financial situations. I'm thinking about elderly people, single parents, particularly single mothers, and disabled people as well who have a harder time, and just don't have as much free time and things like that. They have other things going on in their life where that SNAP money can really come in handy and make the difference between eating well and feeling good and sleeping good at night and just not having enough food to eat. Now, the interesting thing is that according to the Guardian, the average recipient of the SNAP program only receives about $6 a day, $6 US a day, which isn't really that much money. I don't think it's enough money to properly eat. If you're going to have, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, $6 isn't really enough money to even eat. But according to the Guardian, that's the allotted amount on average per SNAP recipient. And it's kind of ridiculous that Trump's plans are to cut $6 because $6 doesn't really buy much these days in the United States, does it? I mean, we have a lot of things going on, like rising food prices across the board. Food prices are up at least 30 to 40% over the last 6 years since kind of the beginning in the pandemic in 2019, according to NerdWallet. So, there has been a big, big, big issue with a lot of Americans going to the grocery store and going to places like Walmart, and they're looking to buy food because the prices are just up. And in this video, we're going to talk about the solutions that you can take, the steps that you can take to alleviate the food insecurity problem in your lives and for yourself and for your family if you just simply switch to the power of saving and owning Bitcoin. So hear me out. So the problem is that food is something that sustains life. The old saying, "You are what you eat," rings true. Okay, nutrition is key to life. Your body can't sustain itself without eating. The food that you eat is what makes up your body. It's what makes up your joints, your ligaments, your bones, your muscles, right? Every couple of months, your body regenerates itself based on the food you eat. It's what your hair is made of, protein. So, all of these key elements that make up your body is made by the foods that you eat. So food is an essential portion of life. You can do with a lot of things, but you can't do without food and clean water to drink. And I think it's absolutely hilarious and yet ridiculous at the same time that the government is trying to kind of limit us and tell us what we are allowed to eat and what not to eat. So I was doing some research, and I was reading that one of the guys leading the charge, RFK Jr., he wants to put limits on what you can purchase with your SNAP program. So it's not enough that they're going to actually cut the $6 on average that each person under the program receives, per household, right? They're actually going to try to limit on what you can actually purchase. So I was kind of reading, they said some of the things they're trying to limit were sugary drinks, sodas like that. This is ridiculous, okay? A lot of hardworking Americans like drinking soda, whether it's drinking, things like Coke or some of the Coke Zero products or Diet Coke. It's not like they're purchasing alcohol and things like this. And this is just one of the many reasons why I think Americans, especially, I know that a lot of other countries look up to Americans. So we are really responsible for leading the charge in terms of Bitcoin adoption to take away the power and take away the ability of the government to control what we purchase at the grocery checkout. This is ridiculous. Okay, if I'm on SNAP benefits program, the money is being allotted to me, right? Why? What is it anyone's business if I'm buying a Coke Zero? It's absolutely ridiculous. And the sad thing about it is that using these government and fiat currencies and things like that, the inflation will always continue. So food prices will always go up, go up, go up. I can remember it like yesterday when I was, 5 years old in the early 90s. If my mom gave me $1, I could go to the dollar store, or I could go to the grocery store, and I could come out with a lot of things simply because the dollar and fiat currencies had really strong purchasing power. But that purchasing power has simply dwindled. And not only is the purchasing power of the dollar dwindling, but now the government and these officials are actually trying to limit what we purchase and make it really difficult for us to have the freedom that Americans and other people around the world desire so much. A lot of people are going to be affected by these SNAP benefit cuts. Millions of American families are going to find it harder to put food on the table, and this is a trickle down effect as well. Because if there's cuts to the food program, that means that a lot of people that work in America and send remittances home to other countries, such as Mexico, okay, parts of Africa, Latin America, parts of Asia, Philippines, Thailand. A lot of these OFWs, right, overseas foreign workers, won't be able to send as much money simply because they're going to be feeling the higher prices at the checkout counter in the grocery stores and restaurants and things like that, and they just won't have as much disposable income to send home to help their family. So this is a serious issue that can be alleviated and can be reversed with Bitcoin. So now we talked about the issue, let's talk about the solution. Well, the good thing is that food gets cheaper in Bitcoin. I know it sounds ridiculous, but think of it like this, right? If the price of Bitcoin has been going up on average anywhere between 70 to 80% annually over the last 10 years, it is up 33,000% over the last 10 years. That means that your food prices are getting cheaper. So if the price of Bitcoin ends up doubling, well, your food costs have been slashed in half because now you just have more purchasing power with your Bitcoin. So when you use that Bitcoin to purchase things like eggs, right? Meat, vegetables, fruits, okay, soda pop, whatever you're purchasing at the grocery store, it gets cheaper. And this applies to restaurants too, because your purchasing power is going up, okay? Another prime example is back before food prices got out of control, back in 2019, 2020, during the pandemic, around that time, Bitcoin was anywhere between 4,000 to 6,000 to 8,000 US dollars, depending on what time period you're looking at. Now that price is up over tenfold. So Bitcoiners that had Bitcoin back in 2019 and 2020 compared to now, their food prices have been cut by 90%. Remember, if the price of Bitcoin goes up 10x, right, goes up 9 to 10x from $8,000 to over $80,000, that means that food prices for Bitcoiners have been slashed by 90%. And this is something that a lot of people are not talking about. We all need to eat. That is something that we all do around the world, no matter what language you speak, no matter what gender, no matter what sexual orientation, no matter where you work or what you do in your life, man, child, whatever, woman, adult, adolescent, minor, we all need to eat. And the good thing about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin makes your food cheaper over time. So for me, in my personal journey, when I first started out in Bitcoin, I was having to resort to eating cheaper foods. There's kind of a funny saying that a lot of Bitcoiners are basically stacking Bitcoin and living off of ramen noodles. But every time Bitcoin goes up, makes a move, whether it's up $1,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever dollars, my food prices get cheaper. And now I'm able to go to the grocery store, go and shop, shop at my favorite grocery stores. I'm able to really buy the foods I really want to eat, irregardless of the price. That means now it's just because I'm just able to eat better and I'm just able to actually buy what I want. I'm not so price dependent. I'm not so much looking at the price. I'm realizing that as Bitcoin goes up 60 to 70% per year on average, that's not necessarily guaranteed to continue. But as that continues to happen, my cost of food just starts getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Now I'm able to eat out more. I'm able to purchase some of the more expensive luxury food items that I really enjoy, and I'm not forced to be so focused on the sticker price and obsessed with saving money and detriment my health. And that means I'm able to eat a more complex diet of fruits and vegetables and things like that. And I'm able to just have a more complete nutritional profile rather than just going for like the cheapest thing like noodles or rice and beans or something like that. And that can really affect your well-being as well because when you eat better, you feel better, you look younger, you have more energy, and you're able to just do more things. And also, if you have children as well, your children they're really dependent on the food that they eat. Okay, if you're not able to have money and properly feed your children, it's going to stunt their growth. They're going to have developmental issues. They could have problems in school and things like that, mental disorders. So it's really important to understand that a lot of people that are dependent on the food stamp program, the SNAP program, you're going to put your future and your family's future in the hands of a bunch of wealthy billionaires and multimillionaires that just don't care about you. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that. I want you to learn about Bitcoin, to research Bitcoin, to purchase Bitcoin, to hold Bitcoin, to save in Bitcoin, and join a group of people who are experiencing cheaper food prices. So we're not not every single Bitcoiner is like that, but most Bitcoiners that have been saving in Bitcoin for at least 2, 3, 4 years don't have a big deal with going to the grocery store. We're able to fill up our carts, with whatever foods we want, and it's just not a big issue. And over time, the amount of food that you can purchase with $20 or $30 or $40, back in the '80s, you could fill up your grocery cart. And every decade, the amount of food that you can purchase with that same 20, 30, $40 gets smaller and smaller and smaller. At this rate, in 10 to 20 years, maybe even $10, you can't even buy eggs or milk. It's just ridiculous how much food prices have gone up when you're paying more US dollars, more currency for the exact same thing. And the messed up thing is that the milk hasn't changed, the eggs haven't changed, the meat hasn't changed, the fruit hasn't changed, the vegetables haven't changed. They've all remained the same for hundreds and thousands of years. An egg has always been an egg, you know. A stick of celery has always been a stick of celery. An apple's always been an apple. But the dollar is losing its value. So it's just time for more people to realize that the food stamp, situation, the SNAP program is not a solution to the problem. It's just a crutch. And the real solution is to save in Bitcoin, to own Bitcoin, to take control of your financial future and to take control of the way you eat so you can eat better and you don't have to worry about, what the government or what they're going to make cuts here and cuts there and then put your family in a terrible situation where they're just not getting enough food to eat. So, like I said, the solution is learn about Bitcoin, open, a cryptocurrency wallet, or you can invest in the Bitcoin ETFs offered by BlackRock and other companies like that. Start saving in Bitcoin, start owning Bitcoin, and benefit. So, watch your purchasing power increase year over year. So that's all I got until now, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know if you guys have any other questions or comments. We'll see what happens with this SNAP program update. And that's until next time, guys. Please like and subscribe to the video if you enjoyed this content. Thank you. Take care.